Hi guys, Sam here from Landscape Plus. Today we are going to look at one of our waterfall blade kits, and first of all, what you can expect to receive within one of those kits. So the obvious bit, you are going to get one of the Oase waterfall blades. We've got a 600 here. Within the box with the waterfall blade, you're going to get a multi-stage hose tail, a bung, and I'll explain a little bit more about that shortly, a couple of hose clips, an Aquarius universal pump, and a length of spiral hose. So taking a closer look at the Oase waterfall blade, the first thing to note is that you've got two options when deciding how you're going to enter the blade. So you've got the rear inlet and the bottom inlet there. That is why you not only get a multi-stage hose tail, but you also get one of the little blanking caps, just so you can cap off the one that you're not going to be using. The next thing to note, you can't actually see, but within the construction of the blade, it's got a baffle plate. So as the water enters the blade, the baffle plate distributes the water evenly, creating that really nice sheet effect as it falls over the lip. Now, for that reason, we recommend that you only mount these blades up to 1.5 meters height. The pump that we include within the kit is spec'd to allow you to get up to 1.5 meters. If you're going much lower than that, give our team a call and we might be able to actually reduce the size of the pump that you're going to be using. Because if you go sort of any higher than 1.5, the restriction in the amount of water you can get through the blade means that you get that kind of V effect, and then the water actually starts to break up. And that's because the water, as it falls, is speeding up and you can't get enough flow over the blade. So I mentioned before, you've got two options to get your pipe into one of these waterfall blades. We're going to use the back inlet there. So you would use the bung to cap off the bottom inlet. Make sure that you've got the small O-ring that's supplied in with that as a part of that blanking nut, just so to make sure that it's nice and watertight. Screw that one into the bottom there, and that would go all the way in. You can then use your multi-stage hose tail into that back inlet there, again, screwing it all the way tight so that it bites down onto the O-ring. One thing to note is making sure that if you're using one of the bigger sizes of pipe on this one, cut off the bit you're not using, otherwise it's going to restrict the flow rate getting into your pipe. And with those ones, we supply the double wire clips so that they can be used with the spiral hose, and they sit really nicely onto the grooves within the pipe, making sure they don't move when you tighten them up. Another option within the Oase waterfall blade range is the LED light bar. So the blade itself stays exactly the same, meaning that if you wanted to retrofit one to an existing blade, that is absolutely fine. You would need to pop a small hole into the corner of the blade there to allow the cable to get out of there. That then simply slots into that groove just there. Cable comes out through the back. You've got 10 meters of cable to play with there, so plenty to get away from the blade. You've then got an IP54 outdoor rated power supply, dropping it down to 12 volts, so it's nice and safe in the water. That's resin filled, so absolutely fine to go out in the garden. Then you've got your length 3-core cable going off to a 3-pin plug or a switch box, however you want to power the blade. Now we've got a couple of options when choosing your waterfall blade. This is the standard lip option, and this, as you can see, is an extended lip, just bringing the flow of water further away from the wall that you fixed your blade to or built it into. Now a couple of tips to make sure that the water within your feature is as healthy as possible. Now there's always a temptation with a waterfall blade to site the pump right at the bottom of where the water is coming back into the feature. Now this is great because it limits the distance of pipework that you need between your pump and your waterfall blade, but what it also creates is dead spots within the rest of the feature. Now depending on the size and shape depends on how much of an issue this might be, but for example, if you've got an L-shaped feature and you've got your pump right where the water's coming back into the feature, the rest of it is going to be dead spots, creating terrible water conditions. One way of changing this is to incorporate a filter or a second pump to sort of circulate and keep that water moving, or you could simply move the pump that's supplying your waterfall blade with water to the far end of the feature. That then gives a nice flow of water through the whole system. Another option there to create healthy water, I mentioned putting a filter on there, would be a dosing system. So we can supply a dosing system that simply adds good bacteria to your water feature. A lot of people will presume that a waterfall itself is going to keep water healthy. Now it will do, because falling water is going to aid dissolved oxygen within your feature, but it's not going to be solving all your problems. So I would always say include a filter and a dosing system whenever possible. Now one final thing is maintenance within your water feature. Everything in a garden needs maintenance, so the idea of putting it in and forgetting about it is simply incorrect. With a pump, I always recommend checking it at least once a year, taking off this outer housing, checking the impellers moving freely, possibly descale it if it's been switched on and off a lot. From a winterizing point of view, we get asked a lot whether we need to remove the pump in the winter. Now, these pumps are actually rated down to -20, so unless we're getting a really cold winter, I think they should be fine. But what you want to make sure is that the feature itself doesn't freeze over, so keeping it running through the winter is a really good option, because moving water really struggles to freeze. Hopefully that explains a little bit about our Oase Waterfall Blade Kit and how you could incorporate them into your next project. If you've got any other questions, give our team a call, they will be more than happy to help.